Hello, this is a demo of Cockpit and Anaconda with the two little more newer features in Cockpit. And also I'll try to go over more complicated things like BIOS boot partitions and FE system partitions and how that works with Anaconda and Cockpit. And I hope this video shows the reasons why we want to get a much better integration between Anaconda and Cockpit with much better guidance for the user. Okay, let's start. We know we want to modify the storage. We have very specific ideas that we want to implement, but I'm going to be quite intentionally quite naive about it and try to run into problems, and then we see how we can resolve those. This is a BIOS system, so yeah, I know that we need a BIOS boot partition and a boot and root, etc. But I will ignore that now and pretend I don't know it. And let's start to modify our storage. We land here on the Cockpit storage page. This is after the redesign, so I think it looks quite clean with just one disk here. So let's make a partition table. We are modern. We make a GPT partition table, and I want to have everything XFS as the root. That's my idea of the system that I want to implement. So here's the first little change that this demo also wants to show, which is that we only have a create button here now in this dialog, and there is no option to mount it at the same time. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to mount stuff when you prepare storage for Anaconda, and so we don't emphasize this here in the dialog. So it's just creating things. So now you have your XFF file system for root, and we are done. We go back here, rescan the storage, and sorry. Now we do the mount point assignment, and obviously we need a boot thing also, but of course it's not in the list here. So we could use this now, but we have to go back and make this boot partition. So we modify storage again. We find our old state here, of course, so now we want to make this smaller, and we cannot because it's XFS, unfortunately. So yeah, we have to delete the whole thing. And now we make first the boot partition. Don't know how big it should be. Let's say 1 GB should be enough for everyone. XFS, of course, because it's recommended, and then the rest for root. Okay, but now we are done. Now we go back to Anaconda. Mount point assignment, yes. We can have the boot, which was it, the smaller one. And this is for root. And we don't have any additional mount points. And so notice this button here. Okay, this will always be reformatted. So next time we do this, I don't think we need to put XFS on this. So, because we don't get a choice, let's see what happens. There's a real error here now, and I read it very carefully. The BIOS-based system needs a special boot partition from a GPT disk label. Yeah, that's what I've done. Please create a 1 MB BIOS boot type partition on the VDA disk. VDA was this one, okay, right. So we remember all that, we go back. And yeah, we still can't shrink any of these, so let's just start over. Okay, now we make the BIOS boot partition, and yeah, I don't know now how this should go. Should be 1 MB. Let's make it 2 MB. And is it XFS? There's no entry here for BIOS boot. I think we should. That's an aside now. I think in the end we probably will come to the conclusion that Cockpit should offer the BIOS boot entry here in this menu. So I don't know now what to do, so I don't put a file system on it. But let's create the partition. Hopefully Anaconda will find it, do the right thing with it. So now we do our boot stuff again. Boot XFS 2 gigabytes, and we quickly make the root partition as well. And yeah, Anaconda is going to format it, so we don't need a file system on it here. Okay, now we are done. Rescanning, mount point assignment. The error is still here. I would not expect that. I would say if you enter this step of the wizard again, it should not tell you an error that might be out of date. But then again, you might want to go back and refer back to it. But of course, we will improve all this. So, okay, now boot is this one, but hey, there's only one. Why is there, where's my VDA 3, I think it was, for my root file system? I've created it. It's not here anymore. What is going on? So I have figured that out, of course, so we have to go back to modify storage, and this thing actually needs a file system on it. So let's make a VFAT file system. That's a good choice for the root file system of for a Linux operating system. Okay, now we can do it. Rescanning, mount point assignment. Next error is still here. There's my root file system. So now it's VFAT, but nobody cares because Anaconda will reformat it. But we had to put a file system on it so that it would let us select it here in the dropdown. But now still the BIOS boot. It should detect the BIOS boot. It's not here in the list anywhere. We can't assign it anywhere. We can't tell it which it is, but it has to find it itself. And what is this? We need to create this. It still hasn't found it. And now it also complains that the mount point for root must be on a Linux file system, but it's going to reformat it anyway. Why do I have to put a file system XFS on this if it's going to be reformatted anyway? So, well, let's go back. Modify the storage again. Okay, so I want ext4. Yes, that's my favorite file system. I've used it for many years, and I want it now on my root file system. And what was wrong with this one? This one, look here, the type is file system data. And here we find the BIOS boot partition after searching maybe for a long time. So that's a Cockpit problem. As I said, it should probably be in the create partition dialog as well. But this, of course, should also be here. So now we make it a BIOS boot partition. And now we are done. Oh no, we don't need this. We do the mount point assignment. Okay, select it again, and now I get my ext4 root file system, but it's still going to reformat it. But it's a Linux file system, isn't it? Let's see if we can go forward. Yes, finally. And it has found the BIOS partition. This is good. Let's make the user quickly, and then we get the summary. And no mention of the BIOS boot that took us so much effort to make. Hopefully it's going to be all right. And oh yeah, it's going to keep ext4, but it's formatting it again. Probably because it needs to be empty. There shouldn't be anything on it. And with boot, doesn't seem to matter. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so now we are done. Now we can install everything here. I don't think we have to go through this. Okay, I think the point has been made that we need a better integration, better guidance from Anaconda to the guy driving Cockpit to help more in the Cockpit UI to create the right things and also maybe remove confusion about this. I'll pause the video now, set myself up again for EFI installation, and then we do the whole thing again for EFI, but hopefully a bit faster, and I don't try to be as stupid. don't think stopping, pausing works. So I stop.